Welcome to Heartline Stories. Today's story follows Sarah, a hardworking waitress who unexpectedly pays for a billionaire's family meal. Little did she know, this small act would change her life forever. What happens next will leave you speechless. Could a simple gesture lead to an incredible opportunity? Stay tuned to find out what happens when the billionaire surprises Sarah with a life-changing gift. Let us know where you're watching from, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more amazing stories. It was just another day for Sarah, a waitress at a small diner in downtown Portland. She had been working at the diner for 2 years now, saving up money for her future. Sarah had big dreams. She wanted to go to college and study business. She dreamed of one day owning a restaurant of her own, a place where she could serve good food and create jobs for others. As Sarah walked through the diner, she noticed a family sitting at one of the booths. The father, a tall man with sharp features, was smiling as he looked at his children. They seemed happy, and Sarah thought they must be having a good time. She smiled to herself and walked over to greet them. "Good evening. Welcome to the diner. My name is Sarah, and I'll be taking care of you today," she said cheerfully. The man looked up at her and smiled warmly. "Thank you, Sarah. We're just looking over the menu." Sarah took their order, and everything seemed normal. She went about her job, serving other tables and checking in on the family occasionally. The father, who was dressed in a suit, seemed to be very polite and kind, always thanking her when she brought them their food. But as the night went on, Sarah started to feel something was different about this family. The man seemed to be looking at her carefully. Sarah brushed it off, thinking he was just observing the way she worked. After a while, the family finished their meal. Sarah went over to their table to clear their plates, and that's when the man spoke up. "Sarah, I'd like to speak with you for a moment," he said with a serious tone. Curious, Sarah walked over to the table where the man was sitting with his family. She was a little nervous. She had no idea what he wanted to talk to her about. "Yes, sir," she asked politely. "First, let me say that you've been a wonderful waitress," he began. "You've been kind and attentive all evening, and I truly appreciate that." "Thank you, sir. That's very kind of you to say," Sarah replied, feeling a little shy. The man smiled. "No, I mean it. You're good at what you do. I can tell you care about your job. That's why I wanted to ask you something." Sarah raised an eyebrow. "What is it?" "Well," the man said, "you probably don't know this, but I'm a businessman. I own several companies. My name is Mark Thompson." Sarah's eyes widened in surprise. Mark Thompson was a name she had heard before. He was a billionaire, one of the most successful businessmen in the country. She hadn't expected someone like him to be sitting at a diner like this. But there he was. "I've been watching you work all night," he continued, "and I have to say, I'm impressed. Not just by how well you do your job, but by your attitude. You don't seem to take anything for granted. You treat everyone with respect, no matter who they are." Sarah wasn't sure how to respond. She had always tried her best at work, but hearing it from someone like Mark Thompson made her feel proud. Mark paused for a moment, then smiled. "I want to offer you something." Sarah was confused. "Offer me something? What do you mean?" Mark leaned forward, his expression serious. "I want to pay for your education. I can see that you have big dreams, and I believe you deserve the chance to chase them. Consider this my gift to you, something to help you start your future." Sarah was stunned. She could barely find the words to respond. You want to pay for my education?" she asked, her voice shaky. "Yes," Mark said with a nod. "I believe you have a lot of potential, and I want to help you get there. I know it's not easy to work your way through school, especially when you have dreams like you do." Sarah felt tears welling up in her eyes. She had never expected anything like this. Her heart was racing. She had always worked hard, saving up every penny she could. But this was something completely unexpected. A billionaire, someone who could help so many people, wanted to help her. How, how can I ever repay you?" Sarah asked, still in disbelief. Mark smiled warmly. "You don't have to repay me. Just use this opportunity to do your best. I believe in you." He handed Sarah a check, and she couldn't believe her eyes when she saw the amount. It was enough to pay for her tuition for several years. Sarah felt overwhelmed, but at the same time, she felt more hopeful than ever. Thank you, Mr. Thompson, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I don't know how to thank you enough. Mark gave her a reassuring smile. Just make the most of it, Sarah. That's all I ask. The next few days were a whirlwind for Sarah. She couldn't stop thinking about what had happened at the diner. It felt like a dream. She had always worked hard for everything she had, and now it felt like someone had given her the chance to do even more. The chance to follow her dreams. She immediately started looking into colleges, using the money Mark had given her. She realized that her dream of opening a restaurant might be closer than ever. Maybe one day she would have her own diner, just like the one where she worked. But now she knew she could do it on her own terms. As the days passed, Sarah continued working at the diner. She made sure to put in her best effort every day, remembering Mark's words. She wasn't just working for a paycheck anymore. She was working toward a future. But as Sarah's life started to change, she couldn't help but wonder what else would happen next. Would she be able to take full advantage of this opportunity? Would she be able to make her dreams come true? One thing was certain. Sarah's life had taken a turn, and the future looked brighter than ever. Days turned into weeks, and Sarah worked even harder at the diner. She had already started researching universities and business programs that would help her achieve her dream. But despite all the excitement, something was still nagging at her. She was so used to being independent. Every dollar she earned was a result of her hard work. The idea of accepting such a generous gift from Mark felt a little strange to her. Could she really accept something so big without feeling guilty or as if she owed him something? One evening, as Sarah was waiting on a table, she caught sight of Mark Thompson again. He was sitting in a corner booth, having dinner with a colleague. She froze for a moment, unsure if she should approach him. It had been a few weeks since their last encounter, but the shock of that moment still lingered. As if sensing her hesitation, Mark looked up and smiled. Sarah took a deep breath, walked over to his table, and smiled back. Hello, Mr. Thompson, she greeted. Hey, Sarah, how are you doing? Have you started looking into schools yet? He asked, setting his menu down. Yes, I have, Sarah said, a bit nervous. I'm still trying to figure everything out, but I'm excited. Mark gave her an encouraging smile. I know you'll figure it out. You're driven. I can see that. Sarah hesitated for a moment, then finally said, I've been thinking a lot about what you did for me, and I just wanted to make sure I'm not taking advantage of your kindness. I'm grateful, but I don't want to feel like I owe you something in return. Mark raised an eyebrow, clearly surprised by her honesty. Sarah, you don't owe me anything. I believe in you. That's all. I've been where you are. Sometimes it just takes a little push to get to where you want to go. Sarah blinked, trying to process his words. He was right, she realized. Mark didn't see this as a transaction or a favor. He genuinely wanted to help her. The next few weeks passed in a blur for Sarah. She had applied to several schools and the pressure of making a decision was building up. She had been working extra shifts, trying to save up as much money as possible, while also balancing her schoolwork. One evening, just as she was about to leave for the night, Mark came into the diner again. He was alone this time. He smiled when he saw her behind the counter, and she waved back, a little surprised to see him. Hi, Sarah, he said, walking up to her. I've been meaning to check in and see how things are going. Any updates on the school front? Actually, yes, Sarah said, feeling a bit nervous. I've been accepted into a couple of programs. It's exciting, but also a little overwhelming. I don't know how I'm going to manage everything. Work, school, the finances. Mark nodded, understanding. That's a lot to juggle, but you can do it. What's most important right now is that you keep believing in yourself. Thank you, Mr. Thompson, Sarah said, her voice full of gratitude. But I've been thinking, maybe I should work a little longer here to save more money. I don't want to rely too much on that check you gave me. Mark smiled gently. Sarah, that's the spirit I admire. But remember, there's nothing wrong with accepting help when it's offered. You're not alone in this, okay? Sarah smiled back, feeling a sense of relief. Mark wasn't trying to control her. He was simply offering her support when she needed it most. It was up to her to decide how to use that help. A week later, as Sarah was working her shift, she received an unexpected call. It was from one of the universities she had applied to, the one she had dreamed about the most. Her heart raced as she picked up the phone. Hello. she answered, her voice trembling slightly. Hello, is this Sarah Williams? The voice on the other end asked. Yes, it is. We're pleased to inform you that you've been selected for a full scholarship for the next 4 years. We were very impressed with your application and passion for business. Sarah's heart skipped a beat. A full scholarship? She could hardly believe it. The weight on her shoulders, the fear of not being able to afford school, suddenly disappeared. She had just been given a life-changing opportunity. As she sat down, her mind was spinning. This was it. She had done it. She had worked hard, stayed focused, and now everything was falling into place. Later that evening, Sarah couldn't wait to tell Mark the good news. She found him sitting at a booth sipping coffee and walked over to him with a wide smile. Mr. Thompson, you won't believe what just happened, she exclaimed, barely able to contain her excitement. Mark looked up, raising an eyebrow. What is it, Sarah? I just got a full scholarship to my dream school, she said, her voice filled with joy. Mark's face broke into a proud smile. That's amazing, Sarah. I knew you could do it. I couldn't have done it without your help, she said, still in awe of everything that had happened. Mark's smile softened. You did it yourself, Sarah. You worked hard and earned it. I'm just happy to have played a small part in it. The next few months were a whirlwind for Sarah. With the scholarship secured, she was finally able to focus on preparing for her first year at the university of her dreams. The excitement of having her tuition covered was quickly overshadowed by the growing realization that she still needed to make the transition from diner life to student life. She wasn't sure how she would handle the pressure of balancing school, work, and everything else that came with being a full-time student. Mark's words echoed in her mind. You're not alone in this. And yet, even though Sarah felt supported by Mark and the scholarship, she still wrestled with the overwhelming weight of it all. Her mom, who had always been a source of encouragement, was thrilled for her, but Sarah knew it would be up to her to figure out the rest. Sarah worked diligently, saving up the last bits of money she could while finishing out her time at the diner. She didn't want to rely on others more than she had to, even though she now knew she had people who believed in her. One afternoon, just a few weeks before she was supposed to leave for school, Sarah received a text from Mark. She opened it with curiosity. Hey, Sarah, I know you're about to start school soon. I'd love to meet with you before you go. There's something I want to discuss with you. Let me know when you have a break. A flutter of excitement ran through her as she quickly texted back. She had no idea what Mark wanted to talk about, but the thought of catching up with him before school started made her feel both nervous and hopeful. The following day, Sarah met Mark at a local cafe, a cozy spot they'd both visited before. Mark was sitting at a table near the window, and when he saw Sarah walk in, he waved her over with a friendly smile. Hey, Sarah, glad you could make it, he said warmly, as Sarah sat down across from him. Of course, it's always good to catch up, she replied, still wondering what this meeting was about. So, how are you feeling about everything? You're leaving soon, right? Mark asked, a knowing glint in his eye. I'm excited, but it's also kind of scary. I mean, it's a big change, Sarah admitted, nervously stirring her coffee. There's just so much to juggle, and I'm not sure how I'll manage it all. Mark nodded thoughtfully. I get it. I've been there. But trust me, you're stronger than you realize. Sarah smiled gratefully. Thanks, Mr. Thompson. Your support really means a lot to me. Well, that's what friends are for, he said with a smile. Actually, there's something I wanted to talk to you about. Something that could make things a bit easier for you while you're at school. Sarah's eyes widened. What do you mean? I know you're planning on working part-time while going to school, but I was thinking, Mark paused, choosing his words carefully. What if you didn't have to work so much? What if you could focus more on your studies and not worry about the financial side as much? Sarah was confused. What are you saying? Mark took a deep breath and continued. I know you want to be independent, and I respect that. But what if I offered you a job, a part-time position at my company? It's flexible, and it would pay enough so you wouldn't have to worry about money. Sarah's eyes grew wide in disbelief. Wait, what? You want to give me a job at your company? Yes, but I don't want you to feel pressured. I don't want to make you feel like I'm forcing you into something. It's just an offer, and I know it would give you more time to focus on school. Sarah was speechless. She never imagined something like this would happen. She'd worked so hard to get to this point, and now she was being offered a chance to work with someone like Mark. But was it too much? I don't know, Mr. Thompson. I don't want to take advantage of you, she said, still unsure. Mark smiled gently. Sarah, you've earned this, and you deserve it. You're not taking advantage of me. I just want to make sure you can focus on what's important, your future. Sarah sat back in her chair, her mind racing. She didn't want to feel like she was leaning on someone else for her success, but at the same time, this was the opportunity of a lifetime. She knew it would ease her worries about balancing school and work. But was she ready to take that step? Over the next few days, Sarah couldn't stop thinking about Mark's offer. It was the perfect solution to her struggles with work and school, but she didn't want to rush into it without carefully considering what it meant. She had always prided herself on her independence, and the thought of accepting help from someone, especially someone as successful as Mark, was hard to swallow. Her mom noticed her distress one evening when they were sitting together at the kitchen table. Sarah, what's been bothering you? Her mom asked, setting down her cup of tea. I don't know, Mom. I've just been thinking a lot about this job offer from Mr. Thompson. It sounds great, but I don't want to rely on anyone too much. I want to make my own way. Her mom smiled softly. I get that. But sweetheart, sometimes there's no shame in accepting help when it's offered. You've worked hard to get where you are, and you deserve a little support along the way. Sarah nodded slowly, realizing that her mom was right. She had worked hard, and Mark's offer wasn't a handout. It was an opportunity to make her life easier and to allow her to focus on what truly mattered. Sarah spent the next few days thinking about Mark's offer. She talked to her mom, friends, and even her old coworkers at the diner. Everyone had different opinions, but one thing became clear to her. This opportunity was a rare chance to make her life easier, and she didn't have to do it alone. On the morning of her decision, Sarah sat on her bed, looking at her college acceptance letter, the scholarship details, and the job offer. She had always prided herself on being independent, but she now understood that there was no shame in accepting help when it was given with good intentions. Taking a deep breath, Sarah called Mark. Hi, Mr. Thompson, she said nervously. I've thought about your offer, and I'd like to accept it. I think it's the right decision for me. Mark's voice on the other end of the line was warm. I'm glad to hear that, Sarah. You won't regret it. You've worked so hard to get here, and this job will give you the time you need to focus on what matters. Thank you, Sarah said, her heart racing. I won't let you down. That afternoon, Sarah sent her acceptance email and soon after received all the details of the job. The work was flexible enough for her to focus on school, and the pay would help cover her expenses without the need for extra hours at another job. When the first day of school arrived, Sarah felt an incredible sense of relief. She was prepared, not just with her studies, but with the knowledge that she had the support she needed. Mark's faith in her allowed her to believe in herself even more. She found it easier to focus on her studies, knowing she didn't have to stress about money. As the months passed and Sarah thrived at school, excelling in her courses and quickly becoming an invaluable member of the team at Mark's company, she made friends, joined clubs, and found a balance between her work, studies, and social life. With Mark's mentorship, she gained confidence in ways she never thought possible. By the time Sarah graduated, she had completed her degree with top honors, thanks to the balance of work and support that Mark had provided. On the day of her graduation, Mark attended the ceremony, proudly sitting in the front row. After the ceremony, Sarah ran to him. Thank you for believing in me, she said, her voice full of emotion. I don't think I could have done it without you. Mark smiled warmly. You did all the hard work, Sarah. I just gave you the chance. The rest was all you. As Sarah moved forward in her career, she never forgot the turning point in her life when a simple, life-changing gift from someone who cared made all the difference. And from that day on, she promised herself that whenever she could, she would pay it forward, just like Mark had done for her. Sarah went on to build a successful career of her own, and she made sure to always keep an eye out for others who might need a helping hand, just as she once had. The life-changing gift wasn't just the job offer, but the realization that she didn't have to go through life alone. Success wasn't just about doing everything yourself. It was about accepting help when it was needed and supporting others in turn. And so, Sarah's journey continued, a testament to the power of kindness, hard work, and the generosity of people who believe in one another. Thank you for joining us in this Heartline story. Remember, small acts of kindness can lead to big changes. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.